Hello, welcome to Miss Clark Reads to You. We are reading Tuesdays with Morrie. We are in my Kindle edition, and we are on the second Tuesday. We talk about feeling sorry for yourself, and we are making book, brain, and heart connections. I have some sentence starters on the backboard. This is about, for my book connection, for my brain connection, one thing I noticed, and for my heart connection, one thing I learned about me is. I came back the next Tuesday, and for many Tuesdays that followed. I looked forward to these visits more than one would think, considering I was flying 700 miles to sit alongside a dying man. But I seemed to slip into a time warp when I visited Morrie, and I liked myself better when I was there. I no longer rented a cellular phone for the rides from the airport. Let them wait, I told myself, mimicking Morrie. This line, I liked myself better when I was with Morrie. One thing I'm noticing, I'm going to go right to my brain connection, is that Mitch is slowing down because he's being forced to, because of the strike at the newspaper, but he's actually starting to really enjoy it. And I think about these times to connect this further to myself, make a text to self connection, is that these times when we're home and we're doing our online learning, it's forcing us to slow down. And we can do one of two things. We can hate it, or we can learn or fall into this pathway of actually enjoying it. I liked myself better when I was with Morrie. I liked myself better when I was slowing down. The newspaper situation in Detroit had not improved. In fact, it had grown increasingly insane, with nasty confrontations between picketers and replacement workers. People arrested, beaten, lying in the street in front of delivery trucks. In the light of this, my visits with Morrie felt like a cleansing rinse of human kindness. Cleansing rinse. I'm going to make a book connection. So, being in the newspaper business, most experiences that Mitch has are negative, hurtful, busy, toxic, and all of a sudden Morrie is a cleansing rinse of human kindness. It's like Mitch is being cleaned of all that toxic, all that bad energy in his life, and filling it up with all of this good energy of Morrie. That's my book connection. That's what this is about. Feeling, experiencing kindness over rudeness. In light of this, my visits with Morrie felt like a cleansing rinse of human kindness. We talked about life and we talked about love. We talked about one of Morrie's favorite subjects, compassion, and why our society had such a shortage of it. Before my third visit, I stopped at a market called Bread and Circus. I had seen their bags in Morrie's house and figured he must like the food there. And I loaded up with plastic containers from their fresh food takeaway. Things like vermicelli with vegetables and carrot soup and baklava. When I entered Morrie's study, I lifted the bags as if I just robbed a bank. "Food, man!" I bellowed. Morrie rolled his eyes and smiled. Meanwhile, I looked for signs of the disease's progression. His fingers worked well enough to write with a pencil or hold up his glasses, but he could not lift his arms much higher than his chest. He was spending less and less time in the kitchen or living room and more in his study, where he had a large reclining chair set up with pillows and blankets, specifically cut pieces of foam rubber that held his feet and gave support to his withered legs. He kept a bell near his side, and when his head needed adjusting or he had to go on the commode, as he referred to it, he would shake the bell, and Connie, Tony, Bertha, or Amy, his small army of home care workers, would come in. It wasn't always easy for him to lift the bell, and he got frustrated when he couldn't make it work. I asked Morrie if he felt sorry for himself. "Sometimes in the mornings," he said. "That's when I mourn. I feel around my body. I move my fingers, my hands, whatever I can still move, and I mourn what I've lost. I mourn the slow, insidious way in which I'm dying. But then I stop mourning." "Just like that?" "I give myself a good cry if I need it, but then I concentrate on all the good things I still have in my life, on the people who are coming to see me, on the stories I'm going to hear, on you, if it's Tuesday, because we're Tuesday people." I grinned. "Tuesday people." "Mitch, I don't allow myself any more self-pity than that. A little each morning, a few tears, and that's all. I thought about all the people I knew who spent many of their waking hours feeling sorry for themselves. How useful it would be to put a daily limit on self-pity. Just a few tearful minutes, then on with the day. And if Morrie could do it with such a horrible disease." "It's only horrible if you see it that way," Morrie said. "It's horrible to watch my body slowly wilt away to nothing, but it's also wonderful because of all the time I get to say goodbye." And he smiled. Not everyone is so lucky. I studied him in his chair, unable to stand, to wash, to pull on his pants. Lucky? Did he really just say lucky? So I don't want us to get lost in the emotional impact of Morrie's lessons. I want us to all understand that this book, as much as it is about Morrie and Morrie's life lessons to us, it's every single bit about us learning about how ALS looks on someone, Lou Gehrig's disease looks on someone as they are dying from it. And the word that Mitch uses is insidious. Insidious is this slow, quiet creeping up. You barely notice it. And then all of a sudden, boom, it's there. It's like, the best analogy I can give you is twilight at night. You know, in the summer, the days are long, and the way that the night creeps up on us is slowly, slowly, slowly. And then all of a sudden it's 8:30, 9 o'clock, and we realize it's night. And that's this disease, this ALS. You may not recognize it right away, but it's happening. It's disintegrating, it's eating at his muscles. During a break, when Morrie had to use the bathroom, I leafed through the Boston newspaper that sat near his chair. There was a story about a small timber town where 2 teenage girls tortured and killed a 73-year-old man who had befriended them, and then they threw a party in his trailer home and showed off the corpse. There was another story about the upcoming trial of a straight man who killed a gay man after the latter had gone on a TV talk show and said he had a crush on him. I put the paper away. Morrie was rolled back in, smiling as always, and Connie went to lift him from the wheelchair to the recliner. "You want me to do that?" I asked. There was a momentary silence, and I'm not even sure why I offered, but Morrie looked at Connie and said, "Can you show him how to do it?" "Sure," Connie said. Following her instructions, I leaned over, locked my forearms under Morrie's armpits, and hooked him toward me, as if lifting a large log from underneath, and then I straightened up, hoisting him as I rose. Normally, when you lift someone, you expect their arms to tighten around your grip, but Morrie could not do this. He was mostly dead weight, and I felt his head bounce softly on my shoulder and his body sag against me like a big damp loaf. Ugh, he softly groaned. I gotcha, I said. Holding him like that moved me in a way I cannot describe, except to say that I felt the seeds of death inside his shriveling frame. And as I laid him in his chair, adjusting his head on the pillows, I had the coldest realization that our time was running out, and I had to do something. So at this point, one thing I learned about me is I learned that I like the way Mitch ends this chapter. I like suspenseful, moving from one chapter to the next, and I'm curious to see if he's going to keep doing that for us. What do you mean you have to do something about it, Mitch? What are you going to do about your limited time? We are in a flashback. It is my junior year, 1978, when disco and Rocky movies are the cultural rage. We are in an unusual sociology class at Brandeis, something Morrie calls group process. Each week we study the ways in which the students in the group interact with one another, how they respond to anger, jealousy, attention. We are human lab rats. More often than not, somebody ends up crying, and I refer to it as the touchy-feely course. Morrie says I should be more open-minded. On this day, Morrie says he has an exercise for us to try. We are to stand facing away from our classmates and fall backward, relying on another student to catch us. Most of us are uncomfortable with this, and we cannot let go for more than a few inches before stopping ourselves, and we laugh in embarrassment. Finally, one student, a thin, quiet, dark-haired girl, whom I notice almost always wears blue, bulky white fisherman sweaters, crosses her arms over her chest, closes her eyes, leans back, and does not flinch, like one of those Lipton tea commercials where the model splashes into the pool. And for a moment, I am sure she's going to thump on the floor. At the last instant, her assigned partner grabs her head and shoulders and yanks her up harshly. Whoa! Several students yell, and some clap. And Morrie finally smiles. You see? He says to the girl. You closed your eyes. That was the difference. Sometimes you cannot believe what you see. You have to believe what you feel. And if you are ever going to have other people trust you, you must feel that you can trust them too, even when you're in the dark, even when you're falling. We'll stop there. Make your book, your brain, and your heart connections. I'm very excited to see what you have to say, especially about this falling exercise. And I look forward to reading to you the third Tuesday we talk about regrets. Have a wonderful day.